Hello, and welcome back to another Askewed Reviews movie review. And today I'm doing a film that's currently in theaters. The movie that I'm referring to is the 2026 film Hoppers, directed and co written by Daniel Chong. So, if you weren't aware, this is the newest Disney Pixar film, and this one is a complete original, not a sequel, which we've gotten quite a few of those recently, and still one more this year, but this is wholly original. Now, if you're not aware of what the concept is, let me tell you more about it to see if it's something that you want to check out while it is in theaters. So, at the beginning of this film, we meet our main character of Mabel. She seems like a sweet young girl who very much has a love for animals and is trying to rescue all of the pets from her school from being trapped in these cages. She goes about it in a very unorthodox way and gets caught and ends up in trouble, which does not work out well for her as she also has some rage issues. Her parents can't seem to figure out a way of helping her channel her emotions and rage into something better. However, her grandmother does seem to figure out a way, and that's by truly introducing her into appreciating and experiencing nature. We watch as over the years, Mabel and her grandmother have this beautiful and close relationship until unfortunately her grandmother passes. The story then picks up when Mabel is about 19 years old. She is very much an eco warrior. The problem is that seems to be her only focus. She doesn't really have friends, no real social life, and she's starting to not do well at school, even though she's very smart and very clever. Her main focus at this point is to stop the mayor, Jerry, from building a highway that would demolish the pond that she grew up near and has such a fond connection to. The problem is there are no more animals here, and if there aren't any animals, Jerry has the go-ahead to build. One night, while Mabel is doing some reconnaissance and trying to discover where the animals have gone, she does find a beaver who ends up doing some really strange things, like getting into a van, getting dropped off at her school, and knowing how to use a key card. It's at this point that Mabel discovers that her teacher, Dr. Sam, along with her two associates, have been working on a program called Hoppers, where they have built extremely realistic robots that humans can send their brains into and be able to experience the life of an animal and even communicate with other ones. Mabel tries to convince Dr. Sam to use this program to help bring the animals back to the pond. When she refuses, Mabel then takes things into her own hands and hops into one of these beavers. She then escapes and makes her way out into the wilderness, eventually discovering all sorts of animals and being able to actually talk to them. And now she's trying to convince all of them to move back to the pond so that she can save that area. From here, we discover some pretty big and even some very dark secrets that the animals and humans have been hiding. So, can Mabel, along with her new animal friends, including King George, who is also a beaver, manage to help and save her pond, or will her stubbornness and interference ruin the entire ecosystem? So, I actually went to see this movie with my family, and we all ended up loving this. This is such a great new property for Disney. I love the characters, I love the story, the concept was really fun. Also, as a person who is a big fan of horror movies, I was surprised by the amount of horror elements that were actually added into this film that honestly were probably a little creepy for some kids. I also have to mention the voice cast. This is an incredible group of people that they have for this. If you haven't looked into it before, definitely do so. You will recognize so many names. One of which I absolutely have to mention is that Meryl Streep actually appears as one of the characters. I really enjoy this one so much that I feel like it's going to be a Disney Pixar film that gets talked about for quite some time. Now, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 on my scale, but I do feel like it was really close to being a 5 out of 5. However, there was just something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Some small element or just something about the story that was missing that could have pushed it up there, but I just felt like it wasn't there. And I wish I could think of why I felt this way. Maybe you feel the same way. And if you're able to give maybe a better explanation of it, please let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And trust me, Hoppers isn't the only thing that's not a horror movie that I will be reviewing soon. I know it seems like my channel has pretty much become only horror films, but that's because I've just been very busy, and the things that I try to make sure get out into being reviewed are the groups that I'm a part of, which are horror movie groups, and a lot of things that I see in theater, which happen to be horror movies, because those are my favorite things to see. But I'm going to be working much harder on making sure much more of my other content is going to start showing up soon.